Hey class, Dr. Doug Brown here. I hope you're doing well. First of all, let me say well done. Great job thus far in the discussions. It's Wednesday. We've only been in the class a few days. New term. Great discussions this week. Great threads. Thank you very much for sharing your introductions. It's great to meet all of you. And if you haven't posted your introduction, please do that. Please check the syllabus. Make sure you read all the information and then acknowledge that you've read the syllabus and the information as well. I'll go back in this week and check those as well and acknowledge your acknowledgement, if you will. So our discussion this week, getting this started, we start off a little bit slow except for the written papers. We have several written papers due. I'll talk about that in a moment. Our discussion this week, of course, is on research in the fire service. Some of the things that we've learned both in the field as we compare those lessons learned, sort of practice versus theory. And then as we move forward in the class, we'll discuss that more and try to bridge that gap between theory and practice. We can learn both. If you think about the fire service, really, if you work in law enforcement or any other area, you think about tradition, the fire service, especially even law enforcement, a lot of tradition in what we do. It doesn't matter where you go, they're almost the same. The policies, the general orders, the procedures may be a little bit different. But it's almost all the same. We almost always do the same thing no matter where you go, whether it comes to pulling a certain hose line to fight a fire, or we wear uniforms, we have engines that are almost equipped the same way, etc. So we have a lot of traditions that we do in the fire service. And then we have the research. When we think about what we do, if you just go out in the engine bay and take a look at the rescue truck or take a look at that engine, you'll see both tradition as well as research. They sort of come together. And we don't think about that a lot. But if you think about just the brass fittings that are on that engine, there's both tradition, practical work, if you will, as well as some research that went into that. I mean, just think about on the practical side, the guy that went to the engineers one day or came up with this idea about, being able to make the fittings different and in the hose, etc. And then on the research side, as many of you mentioned in your post, we're now taking a look at the clean cab practice. We're taking a look at that, just hosing off our bunker gear before we get back in the engine and going back and washing the gear. Here in Arkansas, a law that came into effect last year was that every fire department, in order we get state insurance money, turnback money here that funds the fire departments. It's not a lot for some. But it does help the rural and volunteer fire departments, especially the smaller ones, and then the larger ones, may get $50,000-$60,000 a year or more, depending on the money that's available each year, and that helps. And a lot of volunteer rural fire departments here, that's what they survive on, that and fish fries and that sort of thing. So what the law changed and required every fire department to either have the ability to clean their turnouts in a sort of a washing machine, or to have access to that. And what that meant is that you couldn't get that state funding anymore unless you either purchased equipment to clean your turnout gear, or you partnered with another fire department to do it. And a lot of smaller departments, what they've done is they've partnered with the larger fire departments nearby, the fire districts. We have a lot of fire districts here, more than we have municipal departments. They've partnered with them in order to clean their gear. And so if they don't have that ability to clean the gear, they don't get the state funding anymore. They can't get grant money or any of that insurance turnback money. So those are just some of the things that on the practical side that we've done, where we've used research and identified that there's a problem. In this case with cancer, we know that firefighters die from cancer or exposure. and by wearing that gear and not cleaning that gear. Someone else mentioned in the discussions that it was always the thing to do. If your gear was dirty all the time, your helmet's dirty, all your gear's dirty, that you've done your part, really going in those structure fires. Today we've learned that, okay, so maybe that was a thing at one time, but now we know that having that clean gear really does make a difference. Same thing when we go back to those brass fittings, or we take a look at the hoses, we take a look at SCBAs. There's a lot of research that went into that. And we can conduct research different ways. We'll learn more about that as we go forward, as we explore the ways that we conduct research. And we'll talk a little more about the literature review. Literature reviews are important. I encourage you to start using the AMC library now to really take a look at some of the research that's out there. It's important to help you build your literature review. And we use that to learn some of the research that's taken place in the fire service as we in the past, and which really helps us in the future as we move along, and that'll help you with the class as well. So building that bridge between theory and practice is something we'll really work on here, and I think the class, the discussions give us that opportunity to discuss what we see every day, to talk about that tradition, and then start venturing into the research part of our field, because there really is a lot of research. And I think there's some more research that needs to be done. I don't think there's enough research that really goes into what we do in the fire service and law enforcement, emergency management. We talk about fires and disasters and what we do on scene, but I don't know that there's enough research that really goes into those practicalities, those things that we do that bridges that gap between that tradition, that theory, and practice. But we'll talk more about that as we go forward. So just a few tips. Take a look at my announcements if you don't mind. Make sure that you're up on your APA and you start using those links to help you with that. I like to see citations in the discussions, certainly in the papers. I like to see both citations and references. I've given an example in the announcements of what the discussion should look like. And then the written papers, you'll also find an example there. Now, APA takes a little bit of work. It takes practice, but I want you to give 110%. You'll need that. Start doing it early. Get used to really writing and cite. You'll see on my feedback a lot of times when I give you my feedback, I'll talk about headers and I'll talk about page numbers and that sort of thing. I'm more interested in the material. Stay focused on the material, but we should always cite outside research. I don't want you to use first-person writing. I want you to use third-person writing. So those I's and we's and us, eliminate that. What I want you to talk about is what you can find in the research. If you didn't find it written somewhere, if it was not shared in research somewhere, it didn't happen. In academia, we can't speculate on anything. We can't make a statement, write a statement in our paper or in our discussions unless we found that in the research somewhere, and then we cite the author, year. We've got to be able to support what we say with evidence, and we'll talk about that. I'll give you plenty of practice. I'll give you plenty of feedback. Just hang with me. It's going to be a little bit tough. There's a lot of assignments due, but just hang with me, and I guarantee it's going to be fine. I guarantee it's going to be fine. I had a student today send me an email and said, I get stressed out about your classes because you require so much. However, I learn so much from you that at the end of the course, I'm not stressed anymore, and I'm just enjoying the class, and there's so much that you've taught us, and that's what I want to happen here, is that you really get something out of the class, and you can take what we do in these 8 weeks and move forward and do something with it later on. And that's something I think that's important, especially in this particular class. So don't get stressed out. Don't worry. Don't get concerned about things. Just hang with me, and you're going to be fine. I'm going to give you ample opportunity. We're going to learn. All I ask is that you use that feedback. You've got to look at that feedback that I give you, because I put that in there. I spend 45 minutes to an hour on the paper so that you can you get better in the future. If you're not using the feedback, well, then it's not benefiting either of us. It just, you know, so please use that feedback. If you ever have any questions, if you ever need any extra help, I don't care if you had to call me 20 times a day. If we have to meet via Zoom or text or whatever we need to do, then that's what we're going to do. Feel free to do that, and I'll help you. Don't ever feel like that you're wearing me or bothering me. That's what I'm here for, so feel free to reach out. But you're doing a great job. You're off to a great start. I'm very impressed with the discussions. I'm impressed with the content that you have, what you're doing. Some of you have already turned in the written assignments, and it seems like a lot of work. They're only 1 or 2 page papers, not including the title page and the references. So it shouldn't take too long to develop those. You'll get a hang of things, and you'll get sort of a system. You'll develop your own system where you have this flow, and you'll just knock those papers out with no problem. Avoid conjunctions, if you don't mind. So don't use words like don't, isn't, that's can't. Don't use those words. Spell them out for me. Spell out the state's name. So instead of MA for Massachusetts, spell out Massachusetts, that sort of thing. Really look at that example I gave you that I posted, and that should help you. YouTube videos, there's a lot of great YouTube videos on using APA. A lot of good resources out there. Some of us are visual learners, and I've learned that if you go to YouTube and just type in APA, you'll find some tips in there and how to put the headers in, etc. Save all your Word, all your documents, if you don't mind, as a docx for me. Don't save it as pages or something else. Can't open those. And make sure you follow those instructions. Include your name in there. As long as your name's in there, I'm happy. I don't care how you say it, as long as your name's in there and the document is a docx. No PDFs. Can't use PDFs, so just save it as a docx if you don't mind. But more importantly, again, you're off to a great start. First week, we've only got a few days. I know it's summertime and everybody wants to be out doing things. It's getting warmer. 4th of July tomorrow. A lot going on, and trust me, I'm going to give you ample opportunity to work through everything and to do well in the class. You know, we'll kind of de-stress a little bit. I don't want you, stressing. Summertime again is very difficult. I understand. I got it, and so just hang with me, and I got you. Okay, so just hang with me when it starts getting tough. Just stay in there with me. Don't drop the class. Don't think it's too much. Just hang with me, and you're going to do fine. So. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. I've taken up a lot of your time. Thank you so much. I'm excited to work with you. You got, everyone. I look at your backgrounds and all the things you've done, and I have no doubt that every single one of you is going to do well in the class, move forward, and finish strong. So have a good 4th of July. Thanks for taking the class. Thanks for trusting me, and pick up the phone and call me if you need me. See you later, and I'll see you in the discussions. Take care.